Hello, algebra class. Today we're going to be learning about section 10.2, frequency and histograms. So I'm not sure, and this is where I wish I could see the hands in the air of who has ever done a stem and leaf plot. I would love to see those hands, but I can't. So I'll just go ahead and act as if you've not seen these. A stem and leaf plot arranges data by dividing, take good notes, each data value into two parts. I'm going to always keep moving. I'm going to try to make these videos a little shorter, so feel free to always pause it if you don't have enough time to write things down, okay? All right, so a stem and leaf plot. So let's say this is our data. It doesn't even, in this case, we're not even saying what it's about. We're just trying to get the hang of this. And the idea of a stem and leaf is, you think of a tree or like a flower. You have a stem, and then you have a leaf coming off of it. So, for example, in all these are the stems in this case. Okay? And so when we set up a stem, and then we have leaves, because we're going to look here and say, okay, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Things are repeated there in that tens place, aren't they? We range from a 1 all the way up to a 3. So those are called my stems. Okay, and instead of writing all my numbers individually, I'm only going to write now the ones place. So I'm going to locate all the ones that have a 1 in the front. And I'm going to look now in the ones place. The ones place has a 4, a 2, and an 8. And I'm going to write those in increasing order right here. I am not going to put commas between them. I'm just going to list them separately. Because what this really represents is this is the number 12. This is the number 14. This is the number 18. Okay, so now we're done with those. Let's go and take a look at the stem of 2. We have this one, we have this one, and we have this one. We have 3 of those as well. In the ones place, we have a 4, a 5, and a 3. So again, we're going to put those in increasing order. No commas between them. That represents 23, 24, 25. And now we'll do our stem of 3, which is only 1, and there's a 2. So I'll just list a 2. That's it. That's a stem and leaf plot. Now, sometimes you might be giving 2 sets of data, like let's say there was 2 basketball teams and you had the scores from one basketball team, and then over here you had another set of scores for another basketball team. Well, you can do a double stem and leaf plot by dropping this down. And let's just say this was the Lakers and this was the Celtics. Okay? You can put the Lakers scores here and then work backwards. So the number 12 on this side would have been written like that. Okay? Hopefully they scored more than 12 points, but anywho. That is how a double stem and leaf plot looks. All right, so when we look at the bottom, we're going to do one. We're going to practice one. And I'm actually going to have you pause the video right now and try to do this yourself. I'm also going to pause the video so I don't spend a lot of time. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to actually work through it as I'm thinking through. Otherwise, you won't know how I came up with it. So pause it, do it yourself, and then you can make sure that you're doing it correctly when you come back. All right, so I've got my stem, my leaves. I'll just do one line too. And now when we only have ones here, so what's really in the tens place? A 0, isn't it? Are there any others with a? Yep, we got one here, and we got one here. Okay, we got 4 that are under 10, so the tens place is a 0. So we do have a stem of 0 in this case. And it looks like we've got a stem of 1, 2, and then do we have a 3 in here? Is there any 30s? No. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at those zeros. We got an 8, 9, and a 9, 8. So we've got 2 8s, and I'm going to list both, and 2 9s, and I'm going to list both. I'm not going to put commas between them. I'm going to cross them off because I'm done with those now. Go ahead to the ones. Got to locate them first. Kind of glance through, make sure you didn't miss any. Could also highlight with different colors. That might help you so you don't mix them up or miss any. And I'm going to look. I got a 4, and sometimes you might want to just jot them down. 4, 2, 3, 5, 3, and 9. That way I can kind of look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. Make sure I didn't miss any, and then take this and write it in ascending order. So I've got a 2, I've got 2 3s, 4, 5, and a 9. 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6. Yep. So you're just kind of double checking, and then those are gone. And we are left with our 2s. So I've got this one, got this one. Anything I missed? I always double check because sometimes they are sneaky little buggers and we miss them. So we got a 0 and a 1. And we're done. So hopefully yours look like that when you came back. All right, now we're going to look at a histogram. So a histogram is a bar graph used to display the frequency of data divided into equal intervals. Okay, there's a couple things I want to mention in that. Number one, it is a bar graph, and then this is going to be the type of bar graph where they actually do touch each other. The horizontal and vertical ones we talked about last section, remember, those were separate and they did not connect with each other or share a side. In a histogram, they do. The other thing I want to point out to you is this word frequency. Frequency means what? The number of times it occurs, right? So the frequency of Mrs. Silva having to redo her videos is very high because she keeps mixing them up. All right, and then equal is the other one. When you split up intervals, you've got to put equal intervals, otherwise you're not comparing apples to apples, okay? So you got to make sure if you've got a chunk of like 10 in one interval, you got to have a chunk of 10 in the other interval. All right, so let's take a look at what frequency table is. So a table, of course, it would show the frequency of each data value. Cumulative frequency table is a bit trickier. It shows the frequency of all data values less than or equal to a given value. And there is actually, I'm going to have you flip to 711 right now. On page 711, there is a graph there under example 4. Take a look at example 4. It's a perfect example of the cumulative frequency table. So they have basketball player heights in there. Follow along with me. And they have their intervals there, 68 to 70, 71 to 73, 74 to 76, and 77 to 79. They each contain 3 inches in them. So they're all equal, which is good. Then they have the frequency, which is how many occurs in each section. But then if you notice to the right, there's a cumulative frequency. So for 68 to 70, go way to the right. There was 6 of them, right? Well, the cumulative frequency, when you go to the next thing, includes everything from the last one. So it's not an 8 there, it's an 8 plus the 6, which is 14. Go to the next one. It's not a 5 there, it's the 5 plus the previous 14, and you get 19. And then the next one is not a 1, it's a 1 plus the previous 19. Okay, so they're adding them up all together, everything below it. All right, so let's do this, and then we are all set for today. These are the number of students enrolled in Western civilization. Make a frequency chart with intervals. Okay, so I've got my items here, and I'm just kind of taking a gander. I'm looking and saying, okay, what's my range here? So of course we could have one person enrolled all the way up to, what's my highest here? And they don't have a 1, but 31. Okay. So maybe it might be easier if you pick sections and categories. You could do less than this, but you kind of want to do it so that maybe at this point in your practice you have about 4 sections. So I'm going to do them, whoopsie, I don't want the numbers in there, in sets of 10. So the next one, notice, isn't going to start with 10, is it? Because otherwise 10 would be in both categories. So I'm going to start with 11 and 21 and 31. They each have the same number of items in each category. And when I look up here, how many are between 1 and 10? Here's 1. How many are between 11 and 20? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many are between 21 and 30? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And how many are between 31 and 40? 1, 2. And we have just completed our first frequency chart. Now, what we can do is take that frequency chart now and put it on a histogram. They kind of go hand in hand. So you can set it up like a bar graph. You're going to have the categories on the bottom. So the number enrolled will go on the bottom, and the frequency will go on the left. And of course, this is civilization classes. We want to label our graphs. All right, so 1 to 10. So I'm going to write them down here. 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, and 31 to 40. Now these charts do touch. So the first one is if, oh, I didn't do my frequency. I go from 1 all the way up to a 5. So I need to do equal increments up to 5. All right, 1 to 10 goes up to 1. 11 to 20 up to 4. So I continue them. Do you see? Oops, that's kind of a wide guy. Sorry about that. 21 to 30 goes up to 5. But they share that side, unlike the bars. The first one's in 10-1. 31 to 40 goes up to 2. And now you have completed your first histogram. And that concludes today's lesson. Have a great day. God bless.